Hey guys, it's been a while since I've done one of these, but I have a little bit of time today away from my super special secret job that hopefully in a few weeks I can announce. Um, but today we're going to be doing another quick little breakdown video. This one is going to be how Kongdoo Panthera full holds Team Laffy on Hollywood First, and this is in the Overwatch Team Story Cup Chapter 4, I believe it is. Yeah, Chapter 4, there it is. And Team Laffy is not a very good team. do not mistake that. Now, Team Laffy, I believe, as of today, went 0-6 in their group. They failed to take 0-3 in match score and 0-6 in map score. They got 2-0'd every match they played, and Kongdoo Panthera is looking pretty strong. They're definitely one of the better teams that is still kind of left behind in Korea, as they've been able to kind of hold on to some of their players from the other organizations. So all the names on this team, if you've watched Apex, should be relatively familiar to you. Maybe they at least kind of ring a bell. But regardless, we'll watch the first attack through from Team Laffy and how they kind of approach it. So initially, Team Laffy comes out the door with a pretty standard, Tracer Soldier. And they see that Kongdoo Panthera is running kind of the new, I don't really know what to call it, I guess like the new hotness, the new tank duo, this Orisa Hog. Orisa Hog has a lot of merits. We'll talk about some of them in a little bit. But it's definitely exploitable by heavy dive composition. So TL goes back and they swap to Genji Tracer instead of Tracer Soldier because it gives them just more dive pressure. And generally what you do with dive pressure on Hollywood First is you're looking to dive the cafe and remove the soldier. But as we can see, their plan kind of falls apart real quick. Tracer gets picked, D.Va gets punished really hard, and they have to retreat. So there are a couple things there about Kongdoo Panthera and the way that they were holding that specifically make this very cool. So first of all, we're going to go back to, I think it was 210-ish. Can I go back a little bit more? All right, that should be good. So this will work. So generally speaking, the kind of standard right now in the meta for defending Hollywood A, and I know Hollywood isn't a map that we've seen a whole lot recently because it hasn't been in the Overwatch League map rotation for hybrid maps, but it's still a very important map. It's a map that teams like playing a lot, so there's still a lot of it being played in kind of the tier 2 scene and stuff. But generally speaking, Orisa Hog is actually pretty common on the first point defense. The Orisa and the Hog generally hold somewhere around right here, and they kind of hold this corner because it allows them to watch security and watch the main choke while they're still pretty safe and they're on the point, right? And then Soldier and Mercy are very common. Your Soldier and Mercy will generally hold up here in Cafe because it lets them do a very similar thing. It gives the Soldier a sightline to security and a sightline to the main choke. But if need be, the Soldier can drop down from the upper level. There's a little mini health pack here, and he has the doorway that's back here to run away if he needs it. And meanwhile, the soldier is being pocketed by the Mercy, so he's very difficult to kill. And the Mercy potentially has the Soldier's biotic field to keep herself up. So it's a pretty safe duo. Where Kongdoo Panthera kind of changes things up is with the Ana and the Junkrat pick. So generally, instead of the Ana, you are running a Zenyatta, and the Zenyatta and the Soldier and the Mercy are all here in Cafe. And you hold this position, and once you get dove, your job is immediately to run away, because the Orisa Hog, when you play them on this point, can't really help you if you get a Winston, a D.Va, and a Genji in your face, right? So their job is basically just to run away, and then whoever has jumped into Cafe just gets collapsed on. Unless you're playing, unless instead of playing Orisa Hog, you're playing Winston D.Va, in which case your Winston and D.Va follow the enemy Winston D.Va and just kill them up here, right? So, but they change up the Ana for Zenyatta, and we'll look at why they do that in a second. And they change up the Junkrat, and Junkrat is normally a Tracer. And because what normally the Tracer is doing is there's behind this building here, Juice, there's like this alleyway, right? And in the corner here down in this building, there's a mega health pack. And generally the Tracers kind of approach from opposite sides from the attacking and defending, and they kind of skirmish over here on this side of the building, and they try and protect the flank. So the defensive Tracer, that is trying to protect the flank, which prevents the enemy Tracer from getting into Cafe easily, or at least for free, right? So it kind of helps put that extra layer of defense for the defender setting up in Cafe. but instead they have the Junkrat playing. So what we can see here is this initial part, they're kind of just, I don't know, they're just being cheeky, right? The Mercy and the Soldier are shooting rockets at people coming out of spawn, and Luffy tags people a little bit with a couple shots on the Anna. Nothing too important. But what happens here, and we should, and this, all right, about here is where you can get a better inclination of it. It's a little bit hard, but I will highlight everything. So this right here, this kind of blue right here is Anna. This blue right here is Junkrat, and then these, oh geez, that is not how you draw an S. And then the Soldier is up here. Wow, that's still not how you draw an S. And the Mercy is here, and you have your Orisa and Hog here. So what's kind of happened is you have the Mercy Soldier in the pretty standard position, right? You have the Mercy Soldier in the standard position up here in Cafe, and then you have your Orisa Hog in the standard position as well, right on the corner of the point. But what has changed is that now you have Anna and Junkrat holding Juice. Instead of Junkrat being a Tracer holding Alley, he's up here, because as you can see, Efforts here on the Tracer has walked completely through the alleyway, uncontested. And the Anna is not a Zen, who's also up in Cafe. So what's kind of happened is the team is very spread out. And I think that against the composition that Team Laffy saw Kongdoo Panthera playing, switching to full dive makes a lot of sense. But once they see that the positions that Kongdoo Panthera is holding, it really doesn't make sense anymore. Because what's going to happen is Team Laffy will... Well, this attempt, we know, does not work out to even try and set up the dive. But even if you are to dive this composition, the Mercy and Soldier will escape very easily, because Soldier is super fast, and there's a bunch of healing there. And then, once you escape, suddenly now you are trapped in this little room here, down on the base floor, with Orisa Hog can make the very easy rotation, because it's such a short rotation, here, to put in tons of spam at you, and the Junkrat is completely uncontested, and the Junkrat can now put in tons of spam to you. And if you were going to decide, well, we're just going to bust out of Cafe, and we're going to bust through the Orisa and the Hog, then you have to remember how difficult Orisa Hog is to kill in the first place. Orisa can, just much like a Winston, kind of play around the limits of her, you know, right where the edge of her shield is, and use her damage reduction, and she becomes very tricky to kill. Hog, of course, with his take a breather, people call it vape, his healing, is also very difficult to kill. That also gives him damage reduction. And meanwhile, if you remove the Mercy Soldier, they still have an Anna here pumping healing into these tanks. So these tanks are going to be very difficult to kill. And the Junkrat will be spamming mines and grenades into your face. So this makes this setup that they have where they're all spread out very difficult to dive, because you can't dive the tanks regardless, because these tanks are virtually, quote-unquote, immune to dive, and they still have tons of healing coming from different angles. You can't really dive the Mercy Soldier, and removing Anna Junker from here is also difficult because you have to walk around, because either you jump up to the top level here, up here, and then they just run away, or you come around the backside where Efforts is, right, and you suddenly just get hit with Biotic Grenade and Junkrat Mines, and you also have to run away or die. So it's a very weird situation that Kongdoo Panthera has created here, but this hold is incredible, and we'll watch through Team Laffy kind of make several different attempts, and this one obviously goes very poorly. And one other thing that was really neat was, you can see it here at the base, is Young Jin on Junkrat had his trap right on the edge of the Orisa shield, so they could execute this combo where the Roadhog can pull any player, and it can be a tank, right, to the shield, and the trap will trigger. But you can't damage that trap because it is, in fact, behind the shield. So it means that this diva for Baby Bay, which is weird that this guy's also named Baby Bay, he's stuck, and that's a free DMAC. And then once you have lost your Tracer and you have lost your mech, it's just over. And as you can see, Junkrat comes down, he's able to kind of clean some stuff up. And then that's already a minute gone, right? They push forward, they're punishing some kind of, you know, over-aggressions from Team Laffy, considering the fact that Team Laffy is, you know, has already lost the fight. They're still too far forward. And then now they're able to make just the easiest retreat of their life and set back up. So this time, I believe it is this push, they are able to actually execute the dive onto Cafe. So we can see on the bottom of your screen here, it's kind of hard to see, but they're dancing around, and oh geez, Anna and Junkrat are kind of hanging out down here. They're in the base of the stairs. They can hear. I'm sure they can hear the Genji up here, and if not, the Soldier Mercy who are over here in Cafe should have told them that the Genji's up here. So this time they know the dive is coming, right? And look at that. They're ready for the dive. The soldier has already started running away, Decay that is, and Koma is following him. And it's especially important for them to get away once Koma gets marked. You can see here, Koma has Discord Orb on him. That's a pretty standard play if you were playing full dive into Hollywood A, is you can approach a little bit slower. You don't have to just blitzkrieg it, and you wait for your Zenyatta to find a Discord Orb on a squishy target, and then you just kill that player. So they're just running away though, and meanwhile, while the DPS are split up, right, now they're losing their backline. The Junkrat Tire comes in, and because the DPS aren't there to kill it, it's up to kind of the Zen to do it, and meanwhile, the DPS of Genji Tracer for Team Laffy are unsuccessful anyways. They do happen to find Koma, but that is the extent of their success. Oh, that's right, Efforts does find Luffy. But that's pretty much inconsequential. So this here, though, is actually a pretty good play from Team Laffy. What happens is Soldier's gone back to pick up the Mercy rate to kind of give her, like a taxi, right? But the more important thing is they know that Anna died very late in the fight, and they know that the defending team has a pretty decent run from their spawn to get back to point A. So what they do is they kind of take a soft reset where they back off for a second, but now they're coming in and they're already aggressing, right? We see Winston was here. He's actually dead already, though, because Void and Roar react very appropriately, I think. But then we also have Lin and Efforts, right, are all here. They're already ready to try and hit the tanks because they know that the Mercy and the Anna, that is, both died relatively late in the fight. Efforts is able to find the kills onto both supports. So they know that if they come back very quickly, the supports won't actually be there. So this is it's a good play, but the issue again is just how difficult these tanks are to take down, and the whole hog does a very good job of keeping players off of the tanks of Kongdoo Panthera, and they're able to make the retreat, and as we can see, they make that retreat together, right? They're both backing up, right? They're both kind of jumping to kind of make themselves a little bit harder to hit, and they're backing up into Cafe because they know that's where their supports are going to be. So now Efforts pretty much makes a really dumb mistake here. He blinks forward, and just, he gets trapped. Okay. But regardless, he blinks forward into a trap that was set in open ground. So that was still pretty bad from him. And, the Biotic Grenade comes through, and suddenly the tanks aren't low anymore, because now they're being pocketed by both Anna and Mercy. And Decay, much like, watch his health bar here, he gets dove, he goes very low, but he has a Mercy pocketing him and Anna pumping heals into him. Goes down to 5 HP, but does not drop. And that is the strength of double support pocket. You can turn a 200 health character pretty much into a tank. So what we can see there, though, that push from Team Laffy, they were able to actually execute the dive, and Kongdoo Panthera, the way that they have it, their players kind of arranged and set up, it wasn't very effective. And I think if you're Team Laffy at this point, you need to start considering switching to a slower push composition of your own, potentially swapping to your own Junkrat, most likely swapping to your own Orisa and start playing the Shield War. Maybe Orisa Diva. Maybe you might not be able to get away with Orisa Hog because you're going to need that defense matrix in order to trade shield damage effectively. But regardless, this is it's not going well for them. So this fight kind of devolves a little bit, and Team Laffy is able to actually find some kills because Kongdoo Panthera kind of breaks their formation, but 3-man tire is pretty brutal. So they're not able to do that, and then it's just kind of a frantic overtime push for Team Laffy. So Kongdoo Panthera executed a very smart full hold here. Specifically the way that they positioned is very interesting because it's very much not the norm, and the Anna and Junkrat are different picks that kind of give new opportunities to Kongdoo Panthera, and this is a composition that, especially on the next patch, I think could see a little bit more play. Mercy has been weakened a little bit, and because Mercy's a little bit weaker, Zenyatta is not quite as viable, so seeing Ana a little bit could potentially be the play. But this composition doesn't have Discord Orb, so it can struggle to shred tanks if Team Laffy were to just simply swap to like a triple tank Moira, triple tank Moira Lucio would be very difficult for this comp to break. So there's a lot of room for counterplay, specifically in the next patch. But I think Kongdoo Panthera and the way that they spread out was still very smart.